Welcome to Shenzhen, a city that rose from humble beginnings to become one of the most futuristic and innovative places on Earth. Located in the southern part of China, right next to Hong Kong, Shenzhen is a symbol of speed, ambition, and transformation. Just a few decades ago, this land was nothing more than a collection of small fishing villages, rice fields, and quiet coastal communities. Today, it is a shining metropolis filled with skyscrapers, high-speed trains, world-famous technology companies, and over 17 million residents. In this video, we're stepping inside the Shenzhen Museum, one of the most important cultural and historical institutions in the city. This museum is more than just a building with artifacts. It is a time capsule that tells the incredible story of how Shenzhen evolved from a rural town to a global technology powerhouse in only 40 years. It preserves the roots of the past, explains the journey of reform and development, and celebrates the spirit of innovation that defines modern Shenzhen. As soon as you walk through the museum's entrance, you'll notice its modern architecture, clean glass walls, and a spacious lobby that reflects the futuristic identity of the city. Inside, the museum is divided into multiple exhibition halls, each designed like a chapter of Shenzhen's story. These include the Shenzhen History and Folk Culture Hall, the Reform and Opening Up Exhibition Hall, the Ancient Arts Gallery, and sections dedicated to technology, innovation, and cultural heritage. Throughout this journey, we will explore thousands of years of history, starting from ancient archaeological discoveries, traditional fishing villages, and Hakka culture, all the way to the birth of the Special Economic Zone in 1980 and the rise of tech giants like Huawei and DJI. You'll see old farming tools and fishing nets placed right next to futuristic drones and smart city models, showing an astonishing contrast between the past and the future. This museum doesn't just show history, it makes you feel it, with lifelike models, historical documents, virtual reality experiences, interactive touchscreens, and multimedia installations. Every corner has a story to tell. Whether you're a history lover, a technology enthusiast, a student, or a traveler, the Shenzhen Museum offers a deeper understanding of how courage, policy, and innovation can reshape a city and change the world. So get ready to travel through time. From ancient dynasties and coastal villages to neon-lit skyscrapers and cutting-edge technologies, this is the story of Shenzhen, and it all begins here. At the Shenzhen Museum, the story of the Shenzhen Museum begins in 1981, a crucial time when the city itself was just starting its transformation. Just 1 year earlier, in 1980, Shenzhen was officially designated as China's first special economic zone by the central government. This historic decision marked the beginning of rapid modernization, international trade, and foreign investment. As factories, highways, and skyscrapers started rising across the city, the government realized that Shenzhen's cultural memory and historical identity needed to be preserved, and thus, the idea of the Shenzhen Museum was born. The museum was established with a vision to document, protect, and display the rich historical, cultural, and social evolution of the region. Over the years, it has grown from a small local cultural center into a world-class museum with state-of-the-art technology and more than 40,000 preserved artifacts. The museum operates across several branches, each with a unique theme. Shenzhen Museum of History and Folk Culture Main Branch, located near the Shenzhen Civic Center in Fuxian District. This is the largest and most visited part of the museum. It focuses on the everyday life, customs, and traditions of the people who lived here before Shenzhen became a global city. Reform and Opening Up Exhibition Hall, built to honor the economic reforms initiated by Deng Xiaoping. This hall documents the incredible transformation of Shenzhen from 1980 to the present day through historical documents, photos, recreations, and multimedia presentations. Shenzhen Ancient Art Museum, Ancient Cultural Relics Exhibition Hall. This branch highlights thousands of years of history through archaeological discovery, stone tools, bronze vessels, jade artifacts, Song and Ming Dynasty ceramics, and relics from the Daping Fortress and coastal defense sites. Shenzhen Museum of Contemporary Art and Urban Planning related institution, although not a traditional branch. This nearby center complements the museum by focusing on modern architecture, urban planning, and futuristic city design. Architecturally, the main museum building reflects modern Chinese design, sleek lines, open spaces, tall glass windows, and a minimalist aesthetic that symbolizes openness and progress. Inside, large exhibition halls are equipped with VR technology, interactive digital screens, holographic displays, and immersive sound systems to help visitors experience history rather than just observe it. The museum's collection was built through years of careful research, field studies, donations, and archaeological Local villagers donated traditional household items, fishermen gave their tools, and historians collected photographs from the 1950s to 1980s. Archaeologists unearthed ancient pottery, coins, and even Neolithic relics dating back over 7,000 years. Many of these were carefully restored and are now proudly displayed in glass cases. Today, the Shenzhen Museum is not just a guardian of history, it is a living classroom and cultural bridge. It regularly hosts educational programs, temporary exhibitions, cultural festivals, academic forums, and international collaborations. Students from schools across Shenzhen visit for historical learning, while tourists from all around the world come here to understand the city beyond its skyscrapers and technology. This museum stands as a reminder that even in the middle of modern innovation and rapid economic growth, a city must never forget its roots, its struggles, and the stories of the people who built it. Long before Shenzhen became a city of skyscrapers, high-speed trains, and global technology companies, it was a peaceful land of coastal villages, the sound of waves, and centuries-old traditions. The museum's section on early Shenzhen transports visitors to a time when life was simple. Nature was abundant, and survival depended on the sea and the soil. As you step into this exhibit, the first thing you see is a life-sized model of a traditional fishing village, with wooden and bamboo houses on stilts, rooftops made from palm leaves or clay tiles, and narrow dirt pathways between homes. The sounds of flowing water, seagulls, and distant boat horns play softly in the background, creating an atmosphere that feels like stepping back in time. This section highlights what Shenzhen looked like from ancient times up to the mid-20th century. Before economic reform began, the region was mainly composed of small Hakka and Cantonese communities, living along the coastlines of what is now Shekou, Bowen, Luohu, and Daping Peninsula. Daily life and occupations. The exhibits show the everyday life of the local people. Fishing equipment, handmade bamboo fish traps, wooden sailboats, fishing nets, oyster harvesting tools, and preserved fishing hooks are displayed. These tools were passed down through generations and were essential for survival. Agricultural tools, wooden plows, rice milling stones, water wheels, hoes, and sickles illustrate the agricultural lifestyle. Rice, sweet potatoes, vegetables, and sugarcane were commonly grown in nearby fields. Salt production. In coastal areas, villagers produced sea salt using clay pans and sunlight evaporation techniques. This was one of the oldest trades in Shenzhen. Traditional houses and architecture. The museum showcases a recreated Hakka walled village, Weilongwu, and a Cantonese ancestral home. Thick stone walls protected villagers from pirates and bandits. Central courtyards were used for festivals, drying grains, and family gatherings. Wooden furniture such as carved beds, rice, storage boxes, and ancestral altars still stand preserved. Family values and culture. Life in old Shenzhen revolved around family, agriculture, and respect for ancestors. Families lived in large households with 3 to 4 generations under one roof. Ancestral halls displayed wooden tablets with carved Chinese characters honoring family lineage. Festivals such as Dragon Boat Festival, Lunar New Year, Mid-Autumn Festival, and Ghost Festival were celebrated with traditional foods, lanterns, and lion dance performances. Local markets and trade. The museum includes a small-scale recreation of an old market street, vendors selling dried seafood, rice, herbal medicine, and handmade bamboo tools. Barter trade was common. Villagers exchanged fish for vegetables or salt for dried meat. Boats would sail to Guangzhou and Hong Kong to trade shrimp paste, dried fish, and tea. Challenges and hardships. Life in early Shenzhen was not easy. Typhoons and floods frequently damaged homes and farmlands. Fishing was dangerous. Many men never returned from the sea. Poverty was common, and education was a luxury only a few could afford. Many young people migrated to Hong Kong or Southeast Asia in search of work. Transition to modern times. This section ends by showing black and white photographs from the 1950s to 1970s. Villagers living in mud brick houses, barefoot children attending small village schools, and traditional weddings with dragon dances. Nobody could have imagined that this humble land would one day become a global city filled with innovation, finance, and technology. This part of the museum reminds us that the foundation of modern Shenzhen was built on the hard work, traditions, and resilience of its earliest residents. This section of the Shenzhen Museum marks one of the most important turning points, not only in Shenzhen's history, but also in modern Chinese history. The creation of the Shenzhen Special Economic Zone says in 1980. As you walk into this part of the museum, the warm wooden tones and quiet village ambience of the previous section give way to large black and white political photos, government documents, maps, and dramatic news headlines from the late 1970s. The air feels different. This is the moment when history changed direction. The national decision that changed everything in 1978, under the leadership of Deng Xiaoping, and during the reform and opening up policy, Kaifang. China began to look for new ways to modernize its economy. Shenzhen, then a small border and rural town opposite Hong Kong, was chosen as a testing ground. In 1980, the Chinese government officially declared Shenzhen as China's first special economic zone, SEZ. This was an experimental area where new economic rules would be tried. Foreign companies could invest and open factories. Farmers were allowed to start businesses. Private ownership was permitted. People could travel, work, and trade more freely. Wages were higher than the national average to attract workers, from rice fields to construction sites. Before this moment, Shenzhen was still a quiet land of rice paddies and fishing boats. But almost overnight, it became a construction site filled with cranes, bricks, migrant workers, and hope. The museum displays authentic government documents approving the creation of the SEZ, the first Shenzhen city planning map, showing empty farmland that would later become Fuxian, Luohu, Nanchon, and Shekou districts. Photographs of Deng Xiaoping's visit in 1984, where he famously said, "Development is the hard truth." Fajian Taisha Dali. A replica of the early construction workers' dormitories made of simple wood and iron sheets. Old labor ID cards, permits, and handwritten wage records of the first migrant workers. Shekou Industrial Zone. The first step. One of the first places to be developed was Shekou, led by the China Merchants Group under the slogan, "Time is money, efficiency is life." Shenzhen, Jinshan, Saolu Shoming. This slogan is recreated on a huge wall inside the museum, representing the spirit of early Shenzhen. Visitors can see recreated scenes of factory interiors, complete with sewing machines, metal tools, and early electronics. Black and white footage of young workers, many just teenagers arriving by train or bus, carrying small suitcases and big dreams. Posters encouraging industrial development, innovation, and productivity. Migration and dreams. In the early 1980s, millions of people from all over China traveled to Shenzhen. They came from villages, mountain regions, and other provinces, hoping to earn higher wages and change their lives. The museum shows train tickets and travel passes used by migrants, clothing, lunchboxes, and wooden suitcases carried by workers. A recreated Shenzhen street from the 1980s with neon lights, bicycle-filled roads, fabric markets, street vendors selling rice, noodles, and small electronics shops. From unknown town to global symbol. By the end of the 1980s, skyscrapers began to rise in Luohu and Fuxian. Roads, ports, and railways connected Shenzhen to Guangzhou and Hong Kong. Companies like Huawei, founded in 1987, and Ping and Insurance 1988 began in small rented rooms. Shenzhen was no longer a hidden fishing village. It was becoming a symbol of reform, determination, and opportunity. This section of the museum reminds us that great cities are not just built from steel and concrete, but from visions, brave decisions, and the dreams of people seeking a better life. This section of the museum shows the incredible transformation that took place after Shenzhen became a special economic zone. What once was a quiet land of rice fields and fishing boats quickly turned into a forest of cranes, factories, highways, neon lights, and skyscrapers. It is a story of speed, determination, sacrifice, and ambition. As you enter this hall, you're surrounded by massive panoramic photos of Shenzhen in the 1980s and 199. Placed side by side with modern images of the same locations. What used to be farmland is now glass towers and business districts. This visual contrast is one of the most powerful storytelling elements of the museum. From dusty roads to a modern city, the exhibit begins with the early construction period. Dirt roads filled with bicycles, workers in blue uniforms and construction trucks, simple brick dormitories for migrant workers, handwritten blueprints of early factories and housing blocks. Then, you move to displays showing the rapid growth of infrastructure, railway development, photos of the Guangzhou-Shenzhen Railway and the Shenzhen-Hong Kong Kowloon trains that connected the city to the outside world. Ports and shipping, the creation of Yanshan Port and Shekou Port, which later became some of the world's busiest container ports. Road networks, bridges, and expressways, many built in record time, with thousands of workers working day and night. Population of the most striking facts you see in this hall. 1980, population of Shenzhen equals about 30,000 people. 1990, population equals over 1 million. 2000, population equals 7 million. Today, over 17 million residents. 2 represent this. The museum displays real Hukou residence permit documents issued to new residents, old ID cards, ration coupons, and factory employment passes. Photographs of crowded train stations filled with young workers arriving with hopes and suitcases. Rise of factories and industry. Shenzhen became the factory of the world. The museum recreates electronics workshops with small soldering stations, circuit boards, early telephones, pagers, and radios. Factories producing textiles, toys, garments, watches, and early computer parts. Posters and reports on iconic early companies like Huawei 1987, ZTE 1985, and BYD 1995. Urban landmarks from rural to large 3D model of the Shenzhen skyline through time shows the construction of Guomo, building Shenzhen International Trade Center in 1985. China's first skyscraper over 100 meters. Shenzhen Railway Station in Luohu becoming a symbol of modernization. Development of CBD areas like Fuxian, Huaqiang, and Nanxian High-Tech Park. maps showing the expansion of the city's metro lines, commercial centers, and residential districts, challenges along the way. This section does not hide the struggles involved. Workers living in cramped dormitories, working 12-hour shifts, labor disputes, low wages, poor safety standards, environmental issues, polluted rivers, foggy air caused by factories and construction. Newspaper clippings, journals, and documentaries displayed here show both the glory and hardship of rapid development. Shenzhen becomes an international symbol by the late 1990s and early 2000s. Shenzhen hosted global business forums and trade fairs. The city became known as the window of China's reform, and opening up foreign investors from Japan, the US, Europe, and Southeast Asia began setting up offices and manufacturing centers. A quote from Deng Xiaoping displayed on the wall reads, "Shenzhen's success proves that the decisions we made were correct." Before Shenzhen became a symbol of modern development, the land it stands on held thousands of years of human history. This section of the Shenzhen Museum takes visitors far back in time, long before factories, highways, or the special economic zone. It reveals that Shenzhen's roots stretch deep into prehistoric times, with ancient tools, pottery, and cultural relics that show early life along the Pearl River Delta. As you walk into this dimly lit hall, the atmosphere shifts. Gone are the sounds of machinery and construction. Instead, soft flute music, earthy tones, and the glow of ancient artifacts greet you. The walls, designed to resemble stone cave surfaces, and the glass cases that hold relics thousands of years old create a powerful contrast to Shenzhen's futuristic image. Prehistoric Shenzhen Neolithic Age. Over 7,000 years ago, inside glass displays, you'll find stone axes, knives, arrowheads, and grinding tools used by early inhabitants, pieces of handmade clay pottery, decorated with simple patterns, used to store water and grain, shell remains, and fishing tools suggesting that ancient villagers lived by rivers and along the coast, depending on the sea for survival. Many of these artifacts were discovered in locations such as Shanghai, Dupeng Peninsula, and Shenzhen Bay, proving that prehistoric communities thrived here long before the concept of a city existed. Bronze Age in early Chinese dynasties. Moving forward in time, the museum displays relics from the Shang and Zhou dynasties 1600 to 256 BCE, bronze ritual vessels, carved with mythical animal patterns, jade ornaments and pendants, believed to be worn by tribal leaders or used during ancestral worship, ancient coins, and cowrie shells, some of the earliest forms of currency used in the region. These artifacts show that Shenzhen was part of early trade routes and cultural exchanges in southern China. Nan-Yu Kingdom to Temps and Song dynasties, 203 BCE, 1279 CE. During the Nan-Yu Kingdom, and later the Tang and Song dynasties, Shenzhen became part of ancient coastal trade networks linking China to Southeast Asia and beyond. This section includes porcelain bowls, plates and vases from the Tang and Song dynasties, with blue-green celadon glaze, ancient iron tools, fishing hooks, and farming equipment used by villagers, fragments of shipwrecks and maritime trade objects, proving that the area was involved in early sea trade along the Maritime Silk Road. A large interactive map shows ancient trade routes from Shenzhen to Guangzhou, Quanzhou, and Southeast Asia, illustrating how coastal communities contributed to global commerce long before modern ports existed. Daping Fortress, Coastal Defense and Warfare. One of the most notable historical sites represented here is the Daping Fortress, built during the Ming Dynasty 1394 CE, to protect the coast from pirates and foreign invasions. The museum features miniature models of the fortress, complete with stone walls, watchtowers, cannons, and military barracks. Weapons and armor, including iron swords, spears, fire arrows, and Qing Dynasty rifles. Historical documents showing battles fought against coastal pirates, known as Woko, and resistance during the Opium Wars. Burial sites and cultural beliefs. Shenzhen residents believed strongly in honoring ancestors and the afterlife. Displayed here are clay tomb figures, miniature items buried with the deceased, bronze, mirrors, combs, hairpins, incense burners, and small jade pieces found in tombs. A reconstructed stone burial chamber, with offerings placed around the remains. These artifacts reveal not only daily life but also spiritual beliefs about death, family, and the soul. Preservation efforts. The section ends with videos showing archaeologists carefully excavating sites around Shenzhen. There are clips of them uncovering pottery, cleaning artifacts with brushes, and recording findings before urban development projects begin. This hall reminds visitors that Shenzhen did not start in 1980. It began thousands of years ago with ancient hands, shaping stone tools, building villages, and creating culture. The past beneath the soil is just as meaningful as the skyline above it. To truly understand the significance of the exhibits inside the Shenzhen Museum, we first need to explore the unbelievable transformation of the city itself, a story unlike any other in modern history. Just over 40 years ago, Shenzhen was a quiet cluster of fishing villages and a rural county in Guangdong province. Life was simple. Most residents were fishermen, farmers and Hakka villagers living in traditional houses, cultivating rice fields, and trading small goods in local markets. There were no skyscrapers, no metro lines. Number 5. Star hotels, just open land, rivers, fish ponds, and a few 3 to 4-story buildings. In 1978, the population was barely 30, and 0 people, but everything changed in 1980. When China's leader Deng Xiaoping introduced a bold economic experiment, he chose Shenzhen as the site of the first special economic zone, says in China. This meant new policies, foreign investments, flexible trade systems, and economic freedom never seen before in the country. At the museum, this transformation is shown in great detail. Old photographs and maps show what Shenzhen looked like before development: dirt roads, fishing boats, paddy fields, and small traditional homes. The museum displays original government documents, handwritten notes, and newspaper articles announcing the creation of the SEZ, a giant panoramic, digital screenplays, time-lapse animations of Shenzhen's skyline, growing year by year from empty land to a forest of glass towers. You can even see a life-size reconstruction of a 1980s construction site, with tools, cement bags, blueprints, and old worker uniforms used by the first generation of builders. The transformation was incredibly fast. In the 1980s and 1990s, factories popped up everywhere. Migrant workers from across China came to Shenzhen in search of opportunity. Villagers who once farmed the land began renting their land to developers or starting businesses, becoming the famous millionaire villagers of Shenzhen by the 2000s. The focus shifted from manufacturing to innovation and technology. Companies like Huawei, Tencent, BYD, ZTE, and DJI were born in Shenzhen, turning it into China's equivalent of Silicon Valley. Inside the museum, there's an impressive then and now interactive screen. Visitors can slide a digital bar to compare black and white photos of old fishing villages with modern images of the same location now filled with skyscrapers, high-speed train stations, luxury shopping malls, and tech headquarters. It's hard to believe that in just a few decades, Shenzhen transformed from a rural border town into a global center of innovation. Home to over 17 million residents, one of the world's busiest ports, and one of Asia's most advanced metro systems, the museum doesn't just celebrate success, it also honors the hard work behind it. Exhibits show the sacrifices made by the first construction workers, stories of migrants living in factory dorms, and testimonies from entrepreneurs who risked everything. The Shenzhen Museum is thoughtfully organized into several permanent exhibition halls. Each one is like a chapter of a book, guiding visitors through different eras of Shenzhen's history, from ancient civilizations to modern innovation. Let's take a detailed tour of each gallery and what it offers. As you step into the Ancient History Gallery of the Shenzhen Museum, you are immediately transported back thousands of years to a time long before skyscrapers and technology defined the city. This section showcases relics from the Neolithic era, including stone tools, pottery, fragments, and early fishing equipment once used by the region's first settlers along the Pearl River. The exhibit carefully explains how ancient communities survived and how the Lingnan culture began to form, shaped by local rivers, trade routes, and coastal life. Display cases highlight bronze and jade artifacts from the Qin and Han dynasties, such as ceremonial weapons, coins, and ornaments, reflecting early craftsmanship, religious beliefs, and social structures. Detailed maps, digital screens, and reconstructed village models show how early inhabitants built homes, worshipped ancestors, cultivated rice, and mastered pottery techniques. Walking through this part of the museum feels like a journey into Shenzhen's forgotten beginnings, reminding visitors that before it became a modern metropolis, it was once a land of farmers, fishermen, and ancient traditions rooted deeply in history. This section of the Shenzhen Museum marks one of the most dramatic turning points in Chinese history, the reform and opening up policy of 1978, which transformed Shenzhen from a small fishing town into China's first special economic zone. Through photographs, documents, and life-sized recreations, the museum vividly shows how vast rice fields and quiet villages were replaced by construction sites, factories, and the first modern roads. Visitors can see Deng Xiaoping's visionary speeches, original government approval documents, and maps that marked the boundaries of the new economic zone. Old bicycles, workers' uniforms, handwritten migrant records, and black and white images of the first factories tell the story of the millions of people who rushed south in search of the Chinese dream. Interactive screens allow you to watch documentaries of early entrepreneurs, 1980s street markets, and the first one-story buildings that would eventually become skyscrapers. The mood of this section is emotional and inspirational, showing the courage, sacrifice, and determination that shaped modern Shenzhen, proving how a bold idea could change the course of history forever. Stepping into this section feels like entering the future, as the Shenzhen Museum showcases how the city rose from humble beginnings to become one of the world's leading technology and innovation hubs. Bright LED screens, interactive holograms, and miniature models illustrate the development of Shenzhen's skyline. Highlighting and technology landmarks such as Ping and Financial Center, the headquarters of Huawei, Tencent, DJI, and BYD, exhibits display real prototypes of drones, smartphones, and electric vehicles, and 3D printed designs, showing how Shenzhen became the Silicon Valley of hardware. A massive digital map lights up to show the city's efficient and evolving metro system, green and smart public housing, and sustainable urban planning. Interviews of engineers, 1990s factory workers, and modern startup founders are shown on immersive screens, while visitors can test VR experiences of future Shenzhen, including intelligent transportation and AI-driven life. This section delivers a powerful message. In just a few decades, Shenzhen moved from rice paddies to robots, from fishing boats to financial towers, and from survival. In this section, the Shenzhen Museum shifts from technology to tradition, revealing the city's lesser-known cultural roots and the heritage that still lives beneath its modern skyline. Exhibits showcase the customs of the Hakka and Cantonese communities who originally inhabited this land, featuring traditional Hakka Toulouse-style homes, lion dance, costumes, ancient musical instruments, and folk wedding rituals. Delicate displays of embroidered silk dresses, hand-painted lanterns, dragon boat carvings, and ancestral tablets highlight the artistry, symbolism, and family values that, for generations, shaped daily life. Interactive screens allow visitors to learn traditional Cantonese opera makeup, listen to folk songs, and understand the significance of festivals such as the Dragon Boat Festival, Lunar New Year, and Mid-Autumn Festival. One corner of the exhibit recreates an old tea house, complete with bamboo furniture, porcelain tea, and antique mahjong tables, allowing visitors to experience the slow rhythm of historical Shenzhen. Though modern skyscrapers now fill the skyline, this section reminds visitors that behind the rapid growth lies a foundation of culture, identity, and traditions that continue to influence the spirit of Shenzhen today. This section of the Shenzhen Museum highlights how the institution combines education with engagement, making history come alive through modern technology and the use of interactive spaces. As visitors walk through, they encounter touchscreen VR headsets that simulate Shenzhen's transformation over the past 40 years, and 3D holographic displays that reconstruct ancient villages, historic streets, and future cityscapes. Children and adults can participate in hands-on experiences, such as virtual archaeology digs, digital calligraphy workshops, and design labs where visitors can build miniature versions of skyscrapers using smart blocks. Augmented reality AR exhibits allow visitors to point tablets or smartphones at artifacts to see animations of how they were used in ancient times, while audio guides are available in multiple languages to explain each object with storytelling and sound effects. The museum also features temporary exhibitions, lecture halls, educational programs for students, and cultural workshops that teach traditional crafts. Comfortable rest areas, interactive quizzes, well-designed lighting, and directional displays ensure a smooth and engaging journey, making the Shenzhen Museum not just a place to observe history, but to experience it. As we reach the end of our journey through the Shenzhen Museum, it becomes clear that this place is much more than just a collection of artifacts. It is a living timeline of a city that reinvented itself from a humble fishing village to a global symbol of innovation and progress. From ancient relics and traditional cultures to economic reforms and high-tech breakthroughs, the museum beautifully connects Shenzhen's past, present, and future in a way that is both emotional and inspiring. Walking through its halls reminds us that the success of the city was built not only on technology and ambition, but also on the courage, culture, and dreams of millions of people who shaped its story. As you step out of the museum and see the modern skyline rising beyond its glass walls, you realize that Shenzhen's story is still being written. In every invention, every idea, and every visitor adds a new chapter. Thank you for joining me on this tour of the Shenzhen Museum. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share for more journeys into the world's most fascinating museums. Until next time, stay curious and keep exploring.